Oh, Mary's here. I'm glad you can make it. I have a historical story I want you to consider regarding the controversy of Solomon's anointing of king as king. But I'm first going to start with 1 Corinthians 10, verse 11. Now all these things happen unto them for ensamples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. And I'm wondering if you can see anything for our signs of the times on this story. In 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 5, it talks about Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalting himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared before him chariots and men to declare that he's king. And that was in verse 5. And he exalts himself. And I think of the verse in Matthew 23, where it says, whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that humble himself shall be exalted, that Jesus speaks of. And we do know the end of the story with Adonijah, because he did exalt himself, and he was abased, but it was after a time. It was after the intercession of Bathsheba to the king, of Bathsheba and others. The name Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, Bat, it's comprised of like two words again, and the Bat is considered a daughter, is the daughter, and Sheba is 7. And it's like the daughter of 7 times, or the daughter of, when 7 has a lot more meanings, and it can be like a daughter of the covenant, and how she intercedes. And it took Nathan the prophet that came to Bathsheba and to have her intercede for her. It took the prophecy for her to go before the king to intercede on her behalf and her son's behalf. Because Adonijah did not invite Solomon, which would put him as an enemy. And then they would be counted as offenders in verse 21 of chapter 1, where Bathsheba talks about, otherwise it shall come to pass when my Lord and the king shall sleep with his fathers, that I and my son Solomon shall be counted as offenders against the ruling king at that time, if nothing is done. And so it worked. The intercession worked. It stopped the trouble that was coming their way. Because by the time verse 40 comes around, Solomon is indeed to be declared king. So he that exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humble himself shall be exalted. And I think of in verse 9, I would like to do a little word study there as we look closer in there. And it's about stone. It's about the word stone. The stone is spelled in Hebrew, the aleph, bet, and nun. And it's like another compound word, and which spells 2 words. And the aleph, bet, spells father. And the bet nun, from aleph, bet, nun, the stone, bet nun is the son. And when you put the father and the son together, you get the stone in which the builders rejected. And the stone was made up of the father and son. And in verse 9 of 1 Kings, you're going to see something else that Adonijah had for a stone. But before we go there, just to reiterate the thought of in Matthew 21, verse 42, Jesus said unto him, did you ever read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same as the head of the corner? And whosoever shall fall on the stone shall be broken, but on whosoever it falls, it shall grind them to be into powder. And so, the stone in which the builders rejected was made up of the father and son. And when we go to verse 9 of 1 Kings, Chapter 1, it says, Adonijah slew sheep and oxen and fat by the stone of Zoheleth. And Zoheleth is just the feminine form of crawling of a serpent. So his stone was the stone of the serpent. And so I'm wondering, when you read through the rest of Solomon, if you can see any extra ensamples for us that live in these last days in the controversy. Thanks for coming.